So when we give our advice, we give advice that has either traditional evidence, that is like some of the herbs, they've been around for thousands of years, and so over time that evidence has come in abundance. All right, so there's lots of traditional evidence. Then there's scientific evidence, and that comes in varying levels of scientific evidence. There's your gold standard research, but then there's other forms of research as well, as questionnaires. So that's not necessarily as gold standard, but it depends how it's done and who oversees it and all of the other things that go with research. Hello and welcome. Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists, and practitioners. This podcast responds directly to your needs, the needs of the practicing natural therapist. With interviews, herbal discussions, something business and something clinical each week, you'll get the variety you need and enjoy to stay motivated in practice. Hello, and welcome to Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite Size Podcast. How are you and how's it going? I thought I'd talk to you today about something that's come up in the groups and that we do see around quite a bit. And that is, are we accredited? Aren't we accredited? Who's registered? What do all of these things mean? Now, we're accredited if we belong to an association. The associations the government originally decided if our education was okay, and they decided that with the help of the associations to make sure that those colleges reached accreditation standard. So initially, back in the day, I did my training at a private college, at the Adelaide Training College of Complementary Medicine. Doesn't exist anymore. And then, I don't know how many years ago now, probably 10, maybe a bit more ago, Endeavour came to Adelaide and the degree was offered. Endeavour's still a private college, but they had gained accreditation of all of the coursework as a degree, and they met degree standards. Now there's Torrens University as well, and they do a naturopathic and nutrition degree as well. Now, once we qualify, we join an association. Now, why join an association? One of the reasons we join an association is because the association has accredited our education as being of a viable standard, proving that we are capable of doing what we're meant to do. We're not just a random, fly-by-night. We're not the snake oil seller. We're registered with an association, so we're accredited with an association. We're not registered with a government body, but we are registered with an association, so we're accredited. Okay, so we don't say we're registered, we say we're accredited. So we're all accredited. We're not snake oil sellers. We're not. The perfect example is, multi-level marketing. So with multi-level marketing, there is a product that they're selling. Often there's essential oils, or maybe it's a protein powder. There might be herbs or a product that are being sold by an individual. You've got Tupperware, for goodness sake. It's still multi-level marketing. So what that means is you are part of a team, and your upline gets a percentage of profits from what you do as well as what from they sell, and then their percentage of everybody's profits goes up again. So it's almost a pyramid, but not quite, because everybody is working for it. But there is a maximum that you can earn unless you have other people working under you. Then you can earn more than that, 33%. The problem with that, it's a great model if you're a Tupperware dealer, because it's Tupperware, it's plastic. But the problem with that, when it comes to supplements and things that we consume or shouldn't consume, like essential oils, is that the training is given by the owner. So that training isn't accredited in any way. Nobody says, yeah, that's real. And so lots of things just get said, and they're not necessarily true, or they're just a bit inaccurate enough to be untrue. So when we give our advice, we give advice that has either traditional evidence, that is like some of the herbs, they've been around for thousands of years, and so over time that evidence has come in abundance. All right, so there's lots of traditional evidence. Then there's scientific evidence, and that comes in varying levels of scientific evidence. There's your gold standard research, but then there's other forms of research as well, as questionnaires. So that's not necessarily as gold standard, but it depends how it's done and who oversees it and all of the other things that go with research, but there is research. And so we don't want to throw the bathwater out with the baby, and that's when I say, traditional, well, that's rubbish, we're throwing it away, it doesn't mean anything. But when somebody makes something up, it needs to be investigated. And so the multi-level marketing and the stuff you can buy online, mostly, you can kind of say anything. And there are rules about what you can and can't say, but it can't be policed in a very even or easy way by anyone. So we're accredited because we've got the background training, and so we can say we're accredited. We're an accredited naturopath, we're accredited nutritionist, we're accredited herbalist, because we're with an association and they have accredited our training. And the perfect example of that was the NHAA. As the education standards have increased, they've actually told people who are in the old style trainings they have to upgrade, or they can't maintain their membership. They can only be an associate member. So that's what associations do. They say, well, your standard of education is actually too low for what's available now, and you need to upgrade. And if we didn't have associations, would that make a difference? Well, actually, yes, it would, because if you belong to an association and you have a consult with someone, then that's GST free, which reduces the cost of the consult to the client, which is pretty big. That's pretty major. So it's really important, if you belong to an association, that you've checked, yes, you can have consults that are GST free. At the ATO, you can look it up on the ATO website if you're in Australia, and it does actually say who's GST free in consultations, and it says dietetic advice. Now, if you're a nutritionist and you're accredited with an association and you have a degree, then you're able to give advice. You can give dietary advice because that's actually what you were trained to do. What you're giving is holistic dietary advice, it might be, but it's still dietary advice that has been approved. It's not fly-by-night, it's not random, it's not me going, oh, let me develop a course that you then turn around and say that you've got a degree from my university. It is the real McCoy. It's been approved by the government. It's got all of the training numbers from the government. People are inspecting it. They have to go back every 3 years. The degrees, they actually have to go back and reapply for those, to be able to be trainers, to have that registration, to be, to be able to deliver degrees and there's no advanced diplomas here now. It's only degrees in Australia. But I know in New Zealand they still have the advanced diplomas, but they've got teach out, but level 6 and below. So you have to be level 7 training now in New Zealand. And so as we've realised, and as new information has become available over the years, so the training has increased and we are accredited. So that was just a little something that I keep seeing in the groups, people asking, how do we do, what about registration? Well, registration, there probably will be a registering body for naturopathy and herbalism at some point, because they have a registering body because people who are registered can cause harm. You don't need to be registered if you don't cause harm. But what registration will do is mean that I would be a registered naturopath. And so a fly-by-night anyone can say they're a naturopath, but it means that a fly-by-night couldn't say I'm a registered one. But at the moment, a fly-by-night can't say they're accredited because they don't have that accreditation from an association. They also won't get the insurance that we've got. We need to have insurance to be able to practice. There's all sorts of things that we can get as members of associations. And if you're a member of the public listening, then make sure that your nutritionist or naturopath is a member of an association, which means they also have to update and keep up to date and do ongoing study on a regular basis. And if you're listening and you're a naturopath or nutritionist, then check out what your association actually has to offer. It might be that you need to change association. There's a number out there. I'm a member of ATMS and NHAA, but I really like the look of CMA as well, so that's my third choice. So those are the three, and if you go back in the podcasts, you will see where I have interviewed someone from each of those associations about their association, so you can learn a little bit more about them in the conversations here on the podcast. So just a reminder, we're accredited and we know what we're doing, and have confidence in that. Have confidence in yourself. Have confidence in what you do and the choices that you made. They're the right choices, and you know they are, and it's a battle we will always have to fight, and that's fine too. We all have battles. An example was the other night, we had a party here for my son, and there was a young lad here and he was wearing high vis, and he was the only one who'd clearly come from work. And I said to him, what are you doing? And he said, well, I got into university and I got into my course, but I realised it wasn't for me and I didn't want to do it. And I wanted to be a carpenter, and that's actually all I'd ever wanted to be. And I've got a job as a carpenter and I'm an apprentice, and I don't earn very much, but it's a full-time job and I know it's going somewhere, and I do get some cash in hand work, so that helps a bit. And but I'm loving it and it's what I want to do. And so this poor lad obviously had to put up with a bit of stick before he was able to leave university. and go and do what he wanted to do. But he was clearly so happy. And I think that's something we forget. We've gone to all this trouble to achieve our dream of being a naturopath, a nutritionist, a herbalist, a natural therapist practitioner. You might be massage therapist, whatever it is that you do. You worked really hard to gain that. You now have to earn the money back to pay it off, because none of these things are cheap. I believe that degrees are coming in at about $70,000 now. So you've got to pay that back. And the work you've done and the work that you do on your clients, and you need to be proud of that. And you need to be proud of yourself like that boy was the other night. And remember, you're accredited, you know what you're doing, you've got the qualification behind you, and show off that qualification and tell people what you do, how much you've spent a long time learning. It's 4 or 5 years to do those degrees, and share it. Be confident. Know what you do is needed by the world. So I think that's it for me today. I hope that's perked you up. I hope that's, pat yourself on the back right now. Lift your arm up in the air, pat yourself on the back and say out loud, I'm good at what I do. Okay, repeat it. I'm good at what I do. You might feel a bit foolish standing in the supermarket doing it, but you need to move your lips. I'm good at what I do. I know what I'm doing, and I know why I'm doing it. So have an absolutely beautiful rest of day, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. Bye. Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the herbal discussions, more clinical learning, and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.